Hey y'all, it's your girl Nadi, aka Queen Goddess Hope, and I'm coming to you with another episode today talking about my story. But it's actually pretty interesting, or at least I think so. Many of you have been asking me what kind of brought me here, especially if you're new. So here's my story, and I'm sticking to it. It all started back in August 2017 when I was actually accepted into one of the top 3 schools to complete my social work degree. So I had finished up my associate's degree in social science and psychology, and I wanted to continue on to be a social worker. I wanted to really encourage people, help people, counsel people, and it was really a goal of mine to do so. And once I received my tuition bill, it was like $8,900 for one entire semester, and I almost had a heart attack. So I was really disappointed, and I ended up transferring to another university. And upon me transferring to another university, I was there for an entire year. I had a perfect GPA, and I think at one point I went down to like a 3.98 because somebody was hating on one of my papers, but we're not going to talk about that. And what ended up happening was I was like, I really want to double up on classes. I want to take more classes. My goal is to graduate by the end of 2018. Let's do it. So I got on the phone with financial aid, and they were like, well, this is only good until December. And contingent upon that, in January, your tuition bill is $16K. So I didn't have $16K saved. I didn't have $16K liquid, I'll say that. I didn't have $16K liquid for me to sit here and just dish out and give away. What they were asking me to pay on a monthly basis was more than I felt like it. And it was more than what I wanted to pay. And I just was like, it's just not worth it for me. I was completely heartbroken. I was devastated, and I couldn't even figure out what I wanted to do, especially because it all came down to the point where I had to stop going to school. And I had, I think, like 16 classes left, and there were people who were offering to pay for my education. And I was just like, it's going to eventually have to stop. Like, I had scholarships. Like I said, I had a 3.98 GPA. So I had, the means and the resources to cover some of the tuition. But at the end of the day, I would have still faced the same issue, and I didn't even want to go through that. So I bawled my eyes out in my school at my work's conference room, and I just was like, I don't even know what I'm gonna do. I had 3 vision boards surrounding my education, and I just knew like everything was revolving around me and going to school. So once that was taken away from me, it forced me to figure out what I really wanted, how I wanted, where I wanted. Like, it just forced me to kind of go into like this deep depression. I remember one night waking up at like 3 a.m., boo-hoo, tears, crying to my man, and I was just like, yo, I have no idea what I'm gonna do. Like, he didn't even know what to do to console me because he's never seen that type of emotion out of me ever. And I just was like, yo, I don't know what I'm gonna do. So I woke up, and I think it was like a month later that I finally had the breakdown, and I was just like, I have to figure out my life. So I wanted to do a new vision board, and I was like, I'm going to have to think long and hard about this. And the first thing that I did was, back to the previous episode 4, where I started diving deep into self-healing and emotional healing and trauma, and getting through that and understanding why this triggered me so badly. Why did it hurt me so badly? And it was because I had so much going on inside of me that it was just bottled up. And finally, I just got to a point where I couldn't even take anymore. It was like trauma after trauma after trauma after trauma. And it took, 31 years? It took 31 years later for me to have a breakdown to figure out who I am. So what ended up happening was I wrote a deep letter to myself. And first, I handled the frequency of emotion, which I really hope that everyone did, especially if you haven't finished episode 4, I really want you to stop this video and go back to episode 4 and really listen to it and tackle that energy, because it's really important for us to understand our emotions and to really understand, why we feel the way that we do. Are you paying attention to what your body is telling you? Do you know what your body is telling you? Are you paying attention to the aches and pains? Are you paying attention to the mental agony? Are you paying attention, period? There are a lot of things that our body may be telling us. Like right now, my back is killing me. And I've been stretching like all day and now my nose is itching again. I don't even understand what's going on right now. It's like all of these things happen at once. My apologies. But it's like I've been stretching all day to try to figure out how I can soothe that pain, So it's like our bodies are constantly telling us, but our emotional state is also telling us things as well. Our mental state is telling us things as well. Our ego is forcing us to be arrogant and forcing us to act like things are okay and be prideful and do all of these things. But in reality, we're not even paying attention to how we can put a stop to all of this. We're just constantly putting on short-term band-aids, jumping from relationship to relationship to relationship without truly healing ourselves. And it takes some serious work. A lot of us want to have a soulmate relationship or a twin flame relationship or really be in a relationship that's just the end. We want to find our person, to be with for the rest of our lives, because it's just one less thing to worry about. It's just one less thing to get into, especially for me. I know, like, okay, once I'm on the grind, it's like that's a distraction. And I thought I was going to avoid that, but that's not what happened, so to bring it all back, once I had gone through the frequency of emotions and wrote down every immediate trauma that triggered me, starting from like shame at the bottom all the way to enlightenment. And that's what really got me going into this deep dive of self-love and self-healing, because you have to be willing to work on your shadows. You have to be willing to go into the darkness without a flashlight, because you are the flashlight. You have to dig deep into yourself in places that you don't want to, and it's going to be messy. You're going to cry, men and women alike. You might have the worst temper. You might not get out of the bed for 2 days. It's definitely tough stuff. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to do it, because that's the only way that you get through. The light at the end of the tunnel is you. You have to just keep walking. There's going to be crazy things that pop out at you, but you just have to keep fighting and keep going, because it's worth it, period. So once I had finished going through the frequency of emotions, I ended up writing out everything, but in a different way. So I started to look at everything that I witnessed, and then I just was going in extreme detail, starting from what I thought shame was, starting from where I thought fear stemmed from, or this and this. And I just went into extreme detail. I didn't care how much I wrote or what and how many days it may have taken me, but I just kept writing and just kept going, because I wanted to understand these things and understand these feelings and get them out as much as I could, because I had no idea why I was holding on to these things. I had no idea why I was so prideful. I have no idea why I could be so secretive, and honestly, I enjoy having a deep level of privacy. I'm noticing that a lot of people feel that I am secretive, and I'm like, it's not about being secretive. I used to always say you ask the right questions and you get the right answer, but I just have to have a level of comfort with you in order to be open and share freely. There are a lot of people who know a lot of things about me, but they may not know like the entire truth, because I feel like when people know the entire truth of you through and through, they can use that to their advantage. I'm very observant. I'm very much so like a people person. But when you know how to hurt people, people will intentionally hurt you because they know how to. So it's just a form of protection for myself, especially because I've taken so much diligence, and it's taken me such hard work to get to where I am now. And you will never ever abuse me the way that you think you can, or could in the past. So I'm very careful to allow I'm careful with who is allowed into my circle and who I share with. So once I kind of went through the entire thing of writing out all of these feelings and thoughts, that's when I decided to write a letter to my 5 and 6-year-old self and completely apologize, because you don't even realize that you feel like you're the blame for all of this stuff that has happened to you over the course of time. And even though we were kids, and even though these situations triggered us and we couldn't necessarily navigate through life properly because we didn't have the right tools, whether it had been underage parents or whether if they didn't have the means to take us out of these rural neighborhoods or rough neighborhoods or low income housing to provide a better life for us, we have to make do and do what it do. And, I'm never going to point fingers at my parents ever again, because they did the best that they could and still are. I'm probably more spoiled as an adult than I was as a child. And I love it. It just allows me to become closer with my parents. And I'm blessed to have both of them. I can pick up my phone and call both of them right now, and that's a luxury. And I think that I'm getting emotional, but it's a luxury that many don't have right now. And I think people don't even realize how much that actually may affect them, not having a relationship with a mother or a father figure in their life, or being raised by a grandparent, aunt, uncle, cousin, whomever. Those things alter your psyche and your personality, and it forces you to love in a way that you probably don't even realize is the reason why you love the way you do. I've taken the love language test, and I've gone through counselings and, premarital counselings and done different things and to understand who I am. I'm not afraid to dive deep into understanding who I am and why I tick the way that I do. I know my boundaries. I know that I can have a complete temper tantrum for no fucking reason and expect people to be like, yeah, we're still gonna love her the same way, because everybody has their days. But I think it's really important to figure out who you are and to use it to your own advantage. So once I understood, my trauma and how I decided to heal myself, and reading it and crying after writing it all out and going back and back and back, and just to constantly read the trauma and finally giving it away, and saying I release this energy and no longer resonates with my spirit. I will no longer walk in this darkness. I will continue to pursue my life in light. I will continue to press forward. I am this. I am that. I am fearless. I am free. I am a boss. I just constantly spoke life over my life. And that's something that you have to do in order to progress and proceed, because there are always going to be people expecting you to fail 9 times out of 10. And it could be your parents. It could be the people closest to you. It could be your relatives or people who raised you, people who are your quote unquote best friends, and you believe in that these are your riders and they could just be waiting on your demise, and it's like, you got to keep going. It has nothing to do with them and everything to do with you. Because at the end of the day, you have to hit your pillow at the end of the day and say, am I okay with what happened today? You know what I mean? So once I went through all of that and I understood that it no longer resonated with me, I decided to start thinking about the things that I needed to reparent myself. At some point I needed intimacy. In any relationship that I had, especially the love relationship that I was in. I wanted to eat healthier. I wanted to work out more. I wanted to learn how to trust people all over again, because diving deep into those things, it always included someone else. So I needed to learn how to trust people again. I needed to learn how to be fearless. And that's why my whole thing is hashtag free as fuck, because I needed to be free in what I believed was freedom. So my vision board was completely surrounded by things and people who I felt would help me and I would help them. And I wanted to give back. You know, there were a group of young ladies that were younger than me at the time that I was surrounded by, and I just really wanted to, you know, be a mentor to them. And I could name 4 of them off the top of my head, and I hadn't realized that I was mentoring so many people at that time, even though I was going through my own struggles. And their thing was, we want to learn from you so we don't have to go through it. And that was like, what? Like, that hit home differently, because I didn't even understand the power that I had at that moment. I didn't understand how many people were seriously watching me because they were in fear, or they were too fearful to take that step forward. And because I did it, they were able to do it. You know, and like I said before, I'm somebody who goes into like deep studying. So me understanding intimacy, me understanding what it meant to be healthy, me understanding physical fitness, me understanding what it took to be a person to go from distrust to complete trust, you know, me putting the best foot forward, even though I was barefoot and my feet were completely scarred up, like I had just walked 1,400 miles barefoot, you know. And it was just like, I had to keep going, and I'm still going. You know, this week was a completely terrible week with the retrograde closing and full moon and closing of cycles. And just come on, man. Like, bro, I got real bags under my eyes. Like, y'all don't even understand. So it's like, you know, it's been a lot of heavy energy, and I've been going through a lot of stuff, you know, considering I had to move from the West Coast back to the East Coast, you know, in hopes of everything working out here, and then me having to figure out how everything will work out all over again. That's a lot, you know, it takes a lot. And I just had to get through the fact that I can't feel sorry for myself anymore. I'm here and I have to do what I have to do to manage, and that's what I'm doing. But I just want to encourage you to constantly walk in the light, because it is a tough road. Right now, there are so many people waking up to spiritual awakening, and it's at a rapid pace. You know, like I said, I was working from 2017 all 2018, all 2019. I was just being free, but it was a tough road. You know, I decided to date myself 3 times a month for an entire year, from 2018 when I turned 33. Throughout that entire year, I went on 3 dates a month, and it was just probably the most freeing thing I ever did, because I learned myself after I truly learned myself. You're never gonna learn who you are if you're not willing to spend time by yourself. You have to understand what your body is telling you, and you also need to understand what your spirit is telling you. If you cannot pay attention to what your body is telling you, or what your intuition is telling you, or what spirit is telling you, then something is wrong. You really need to sit back and assess these things. You know, go buy a $3, $2, $1 notebook from somewhere, and don't be afraid to write. I just write whatever comes to my mind first, because I can't pick up the phone and call people and spill my entire guts out. And it's not because I don't want to. It's just because I rather tell my journal. You know what I mean? It's nothing against anybody, but it's a little bit more freeing and liberating for me to do that. So, again, let me know your thoughts. You know, like this video, share it with your friends who you feel are going through a hard time. Comment and tell me what content you're wishing to hear going forward. And I'm just sending you positive vibes, and I love you guys. All right, take care. Love and light. Adios. Bye.